Okay, so very first thing, when we're solving equations, we want to isolate the variable. And remember, my inverses are addition and subtraction. They're opposites. And multiplication and division, they are opposites, okay? Now I'm giving you some very concrete steps to help you do this. First of all, box the variable, okay? And draw a line through the equal sign. I always want you to do that first. So draw a line and box the variable. That way you know I want to get x by itself, and I know I have a left and right side. Okay, next I want you to highlight, and this is very important, you highlight the addition or subtraction. I do this first. I do not do multiplication or division. I do addition or subtraction. So in this problem, I have addition, okay? So once I realize I have addition, you're going to write the inverse operation of it underneath. The opposite of adding is to subtract, just like we did yesterday. Whatever you do to one side, you do to the other, okay? And then you are going to write the exact same term that I'm moving, okay? I am moving -7, that's what I want to get rid of. So I'm going to write that exact same thing down, -7 on both sides, okay? And see, if I put that in the calculator, if I put -7 minus -7, they will cancel out. And so you're left with 2x equals, and then you always enter from the top. So you would say -7 minus, -11 minus -7. And if you do that, then you would get -4, okay? Now I'm going to go to the next operation, right? So highlight the operation connecting the coefficient to the variable. It will either be multiplication or division. Notice it's right next to the variable, so this is multiplication. Do the opposite. The opposite of multiplying is to divide, okay? And I'm going to divide by whatever is exactly beside it. So I divide by 2, okay? And if you do that on your calculator, 2 divided by 2, you get a 1. So you see 1 times x is x. On the other side, enter from the top down, okay? So I would say -4 divided by 2. That's how you would do it, and you get -2. And that is your answer, okay? And we're going to do the same steps over and over and over. And you can check it. If I were to go up here and plug in -2 for x, I could see that works. 2 parentheses -2 plus -7 equals -11. If I plug that into my calculator, that will come out true. And so you can always check your answers. And if it comes out false, you did something incorrect. Okay, so we're going to go through the steps. Step number 1, you box your variable, draw a line through the equal sign. Okay? Remember, you always get rid of addition or subtraction first. Here is subtraction. So I want to get rid of it. The opposite of subtracting is to add. So I'm going to put plus on both sides. What am I getting rid of? I am moving this -6. That's who I'm getting rid of. So I add -6 to both sides. Okay? These cancel. I'm left with 3x. On the other side, -15 plus a -6 is -21. Now, look for a multiplication or division. And that is multiplication. The opposite of multiplying is to divide. So I'm going to divide. And remember, you get rid of the number that's by the variable. Okay? Because the goal is to get the variable by itself. So I divide by 3. So when I put that in the calculator, remember, enter from the top down, I get -7 equals x. I'm done. Okay, next one. Draw your line, box your variable. You always look for addition or subtraction first. In this case, it's subtraction. What's the opposite of subtracting? Addition, so put addition. What are you getting rid of? I'm getting rid of 13, so I add 13. Okay, those cancel out, so -3x equals, and -43 plus 13 is -30. Okay, now you look for any multiplication or division. There's multiplication. The opposite of multiplying is to divide. Okay, so I'm going to divide, and you divide by what is by the variable. What's by the variable? -3. Okay, so I've got x equals +10. That's your answer. Draw your line, box your variable, Who do I get rid of first? Addition or subtraction? The opposite of adding is to subtract. What is beside it? It is a 5. So I subtract 5 on both sides. So you bring down x over 7 equals, and that would be negative 70. Now look for multiplication and division. It's division. What's the opposite of dividing? The opposite of dividing is to multiply. So you multiply by what's by the variable, so that's 7. So these cancel out, I've got x equals, and you're going to punch in negative 70 times 7, which is negative 490. Okay, same steps over and over and over. Draw your line, box your variable. I get rid of addition first. The opposite of addition is subtraction. And then who is beside a 4? So you subtract 4. Okay, cancels out. I've got 3/4 x equals negative 6. Now, and all I'm doing is bringing down what's left. That's all I'm doing is bringing it down. Now, what operation is this? Some students would say division, some students say multiplication. I have 3/4 times x, okay? There's a difference. On the one in front of it, it was x divided by 7. The x was in the numerator. Here, on this one, 3/4 is together, so it's 3/4 times x. So the opposite of multiplying is to divide, okay? What is beside the x? The 3/4. So I'm going to divide by 3/4. So in your calculator, you always start from the top. So I would enter negative 6 divided by 3/4. And when you enter that in your calculator, you are going to get negative 8. That's your answer. Same steps. Draw your line, box your variable. Okay, which one do I get rid of first? I always get rid of, that's right, addition. So you get rid of the addition. Now, the opposite of adding is to subtract. So I'm going to put subtraction down. Now, what am I subtracting? Are you getting rid of the 4 or the negative 12? The 4 is attached by multiplication. So that's not who I'm getting rid of. I want to get rid of this negative 12. So I have to put negative 12 on there. Okay, and yes, that looks funny. But you do the opposite operation with the exact same number, okay? So it should be minus and then negative 12. Make sure that you see that, all right? Because that's a number one thing that a lot of students forget. The opposite of adding is subtracting, and then you bring down the exact same number. Negative 12, here's a negative 12, okay? So in your calculator, you're going to, these cancel out. So you got 4x equals negative 16 minus negative 12. You have to enter it just like that. Negative 16 minus, and then you can do negative 12 so you can see it. But you have to enter it just like that. And you get negative 4. Alright, and then the opposite of multiplying is to divide. So I divide. Now, instead of the division sign, I did the fraction bar. That also means to divide. And so a lot of times teachers will have you write it that way. So it doesn't matter to me if you use the division sign or the fraction bar. They both mean to divide. Some teachers really prefer this fraction bar for your division. Okay? X equals negative 1. So I'm going to do the fraction bar on this one as well. X, okay, get rid of addition or subtraction first. There's subtraction. Opposite is to add. Okay? What is behind it? That is a 20. So you add 20. So I have negative 5x. Make sure you bring down that negative. And then negative 65 plus 20 is negative 45. Okay? And what is the opposite? The opposite of multiplying is to divide. So I'm going to do my fraction bar. What is beside the x? Negative 5. So I need to divide by negative 5. Okay? So x equals positive 9. There's your answer. Okay, draw your line, box variable, and I get rid of addition or subtraction first. There's subtraction. The opposite of subtraction is to add. So I'm going to add. What is beside it? It's a 4. So I'm going to add a 4. Cancels out. I have x over 3 left on the left side, negative 39 on the right side. There's my equal sign. The opposite of dividing is to multiply. So you can put times. If you'd rather put, some people like to do it out to the side. They'd rather put the times out to the side. That is fine. Nothing wrong with that. So x equals, and then negative 39 times 3. Ooh, this was a 35. My bad. Negative 35 times 3 is negative 105. Okay? And last one, draw your line, box your variable. The opposite of adding is to subtract. So put a minus on both sides. What are you subtracting? I am not subtracting the fraction because this right here is multiplication. Okay, so that is not subtraction. I need to get rid of this negative 3. So the opposite of a negative, you subtract the exact same thing. Okay, again, opposite of addition is subtraction. And then since this is a negative 3, I had to put a negative 3. So it looks really funny, but you have to do it that way or it won't work. So I have 2/5 x equals, and when you put in negative 1 minus a negative 3, then you're going to get positive 2. Okay? Now, what operation is this? This is multiplication because I have a fraction times x. So the opposite of multiplying is to divide. Now, this is when I think some of you, it just looks better for you to do the division sign because some of you, when you put that fraction over fraction, it just confuses you. So when you enter it in your calculator, you always start from the top. So that's going to be 2 divided by 2/5. And when you enter that in your calculator, you get 5. And that's your answer.